Hi everyone. So now what we're going to do is an introduction to HTML. Now HTML, if we Google HTML stands for HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And what that means is that it's a way of describing what we want to see on our web page. So we're just going to get right into it. The first thing that we're going to do is make an HTML page. So the way that we're going to do that is go to your text editor or Sublime and basically make a new document and then save it. Make sure that you save it inside of the folder we created. So my other website, or my website if you don't have another one, and we're going to call it index.html. Make sure that you save it as a .html file, and we're going to call it index because that's what our website's going to look for to load the homepage. Cool. So now we just made our first index HTML folder. So now what we're going to do is actually try and view it in the browser. Now in order to do that, I want you to write down your favorite word inside of the HTML. So I'm going to write down my name, Rohan, also my favorite word. And basically now what we're going to do is actually show this HTML in our browser. So the way that you do that is all you have to do is double click on the HTML file or say open with Chrome or whatever browser you use, and it'll essentially load the page. So as you can see here, it says Rohan. So hopefully it should also say your favorite word on your web page because we're now loading it. So what we're going to be doing as we go throughout the rest of this guide is essentially changing things in our code and then reloading this page right here, and it'll essentially be reflected the changes that we made. So HTML, like I said, is a language that shows us what we want, and it provides structure. So the structure comes in this form of tags. So tags basically have an opening bracket and a closing bracket and then a word. So I'm just going to put tag. And then there's always a closing tag. So this word tag changes based on what the tag is. So for example, every HTML page starts and ends with an HTML tag. So all of our code is going to go inside of the HTML tag. Now an HTML file is a lot like a human body in that there's a head and there's a body. Now in the head, that's where all of the thinking goes for a human. And in HTML, that's where we define all the metadata for the page, and that's where we also do things like import CSS and import JavaScript. So in order to put stuff inside of the head, we create the head tag, and we can do things in here. So for example, one thing that we might want to do is define the title on the page. So like right here at the top right here, it says index.html. Instead, it could say something like my website. So we're going to say title, which is defined by the title tag, is going to be my awesome website, if I could spell. And now, if I go to the page, notice how at the top it says my awesome website. Cool. But now there's still nothing on the page. Now in order to put stuff on the page, that's what goes inside of the body. The body is essentially the part of the page where we put everything we want to see. So in this situation, if I put my favorite word here again, Rohan, then if I load the page, notice how Rohan is going in there. We don't see anything about a title or anything because that's all captured by the title of the page. So everything in the head is not viewed, but what's in the body is what we actually see. So far we have the basic structure for an HTML page. Now we can do a lot of things. For instance, we could put a header by doing different tags. So we could do h1, say this is Rohan's website. And then we can do things like a paragraph. So Rohan is a junior computer science major at CMU. And now if we go here, notice how it defines some styles on the header and it made this a paragraph. So this is great. We can start putting things on our page. Now I'm going to make this page show all of my projects. So I want to be able to basically have a page which shows projects in squares. So let me actually write this. So like one box, and that's a project, and that's a project, and that's a project. So I want it to be like project 1, project 2, project 3. And I want to show all my projects because this is my homepage, right? So the question is, how do we create these box structures? And how do we organize things like this? Because it's going to have, each one's going to have a title, and then it's also going to have a bunch of paragraph explaining the project. So the way that we're going to do this is using a tag called a div. So a div tag is essentially, so the way you spell it is like that. And what it is essentially it provides a way to encapsulate and structure things. It doesn't provide a lot of actual styling the way that an H1 tag makes it big and bold. But what it does is it allows us to say, let's organize things like this. So, for instance, I'm going to say that this is a single post. And then within it, I can put another div, or I can actually put, let's say an H3, that's going to say, let's see what my first project is, like this website. And then underneath that, I'll have a paragraph explaining, this is a website I made through a guide which I created. And this is one post. And then let's make another post. So I'm going to copy and paste it and say, let's say my other project is google.com, a search engine I worked on as a part-time project. Let's make one more. So I'm going to make this one, let's see, how about Facebook? The social media website I made while I was at Harvard. Okay, cool. So we've organized these three things into divs, and each one has a title and a description. So now let's see what it looks like. Okay, cool. So we have, this is one post, this is another post, and this is the third post. So it turns out that we're not yet ready to make it look like this, but we've gotten the basic organization. And so, in the next video, we're going to talk about how do we take this basic HTML that we've created and actually provide styles to it so that it looks nice and actually has a nice feel to it, like other websites that we've seen on the internet. Because most of the websites we see obviously don't look like this. They look like they have colors, they have shadows, they have nice little backgrounds and stuff. So that's what we'll be able to do with CSS. But so far, we've gotten a basic intro to what HTML is, what the tagging system is, and so on and so forth.